What is up, everyone? Welcome to episode 90, Learn and Become Podcast. We're 10 to get to 100. It's kind of crazy. And we're very happy we get to record it every week. We still have a small audience compared to what we want to do. But it's been a great journey. And today we'll talk about English learning and the two different scenarios where some people learn English and some people don't. And we're going to try to bring that into our understanding of what happens, why some people learn it, why other people don't learn it, what you can do to learn things you need to learn. So to start with, I was talking to a student that lives in the United States. And I was talking to him, and some people think that because you live in a different country, you will automatically, by whatever reason, like you will learn the language, which is not true. And in another class this week, talking to a student, she asked me, like, how did you achieve such a great level of English? And then she asked the question and she said, well, you lived in the United States, right? And then she completed her own explanation. She said, well, but a lot of people live in a different country and they don't learn the language. So she said three things. And I was talking to another student that we were talking about the reasons why people live in different countries and don't learn English. So let's go by part. First, the student said, you learn English so well, but you're living in a different country, but it does not guarantee you're going to learn the language. Three things. Which is true. I'm not claiming to have like achieved the wow, perfect English or whatever. So I'm not going to get into this quickly, which was the first thing she said. But I'm going to talk about the two other. She said, well, you lived in a different country, which is true. I lived in North Carolina for 2 years, from 2015 until 2017, 2007. I lived in a small city, High Point. And then she said, but many people live abroad, live in different countries. They don't know how to speak. And I can tell you like of a bunch of people I know that live in the US, they don't speak English. I'm going to give you three examples. First example I'm going to give you is of this guy I met when I went to my uncle's house in Florida, and I went to work with him. And this man has been living there so in 2017, he had been there for 17 years. So now it's like 7 or 8 years after that. So he's been there for 23 years. Yeah, 20 something years, 20 plus years. More than 20 years. And this guy does not speak English. And at the time, I was a young adult, and I went to work with them. And he asked me to talk to a person on the phone and speak English to him, which there's nothing wrong with it. But he's the owner of a business. He closes clients, he does different jobs to the people where he lives. And he cannot talk, cannot speak, can't communicate in English. 17 years, very long time, right? I know. I'm going to tell you why those people don't learn English. I'm not trying to protect or defend or cover up their lack of development. Just trying to explain to you why that happened. And I hope you understand it. Don't take me wrong. So that's the first example I'm going to give you. This guy. The second example I'm going to give you about a person that goes to a different country and does not learn language is my uncle, the one I mentioned. So he's been there for maybe about 10 years now, and he does not speak English. Either he or his wife, they don't speak English. But their lives are organized around Portuguese. So they have many Brazilian friends. They go to Brazilian places. When they go to stores, they don't have to interact very much. So go to Walmart, those big stores. They go back home. They go to Brazilian churches, Brazilian bakeries, Brazilian restaurants, different Brazilian dishes, which is something good for the life they wanted to have. So they live in a great country. They have security. They have access to everything they need and want. They eat well. They have like great technology. They have comfort. They have all the things they apparently wanted without having to have the effort to speak English. So literally, they don't need to. They go to a doctor, for example, which has happened while I was there in their house. I went to the doctor with them, with my aunt to be more specific, and I translated what she needed to tell the doctor, and I was translating back what the doctor was telling her. But that was one time, and how many times they've been to doctors? I don't know, 10 years, maybe hundreds. But they always have a friend, their sons, people do it with them. And it's fine. They're like in their 60s now, and whatever. They're living a good life. They're doing all they need. They work with Brazilians or Hispanic people, or when they do things with Americans, they do it in a corporation, in a company, so they don't need to talk to Americans. But they're having a good life based out of the standards they want. They have money, have access, they have comfort, they have access to health, to good housing, to like security, and all of it, and they just don't want to learn English. Fine. In the third example, which is going to explain what happens to those people that go to different countries, don't speak English, learn English, is the following. That this example is also a real example of a person I know that went to the US, stayed in New York for 9 years, does not speak English. We're very quick to judge. I've judged the situation myself, not knowing I was wrong. I want to help you to understand it too. And when we understand something outside perspective, and we understand how it could have been done differently, we can understand ways that we can apply in our own lives to achieve results we don't see as possible right now. And we gain more perspective. We expand our perspective. Let me give you an example explaining this situation. So this guy moved to New York and he stayed there for 9 years. He arrived in the United States. He's got no money. He's got like nothing. I didn't have a house or a place. So he stayed with other people. And then he needed to get a job, right? He needed to do something so he could buy food, pay for room or a house somewhere, sleep, just to be there. So let's suppose like first week, establish, try to get a job, and then they started to work. So this guy started to work every day. He would go to work very early in the morning, would get back home late at night. And his job was something very physical, something that took a lot of energy. As you can think, can imagine, as you can know, as you can understand, would be very tired by the time. And in this meantime, he tried several times to enroll in a English institution, to take English lessons, and to develop English skills. That was not possible because he was very tired. So he would go to work, come back, tired, go to school, sleep. He wouldn't take in the information. He wouldn't get what he was trying to learn because he was very tired. And then there you go, 6 months, and then paying for housing, food, and buying things and adapting to life. So it goes a year, 2 years, and then you're established life, another country, without the need. And then you work more because you want to make more money. And then you have less time. And then you never develop. Then you get into this like a rabbit wheel where you're running, but you're not seeing progress. It depends on the way you look at the situation because you're evolving, you're growing. But you're not achieving new levels. In this case, new levels would be speaking English, working less, or earning more money, working the same amount of time. But because you're always relying on other people, always working for other people, you're always limited to the work you can do, and therefore you're limited the amount of money. So this guy stayed in the United States for 9 years, came back, still doesn't speak. And I'm not making up this story, all right? I'm not creating a story. I'm telling you a real story with this guy. True thing. And I don't blame him for the way things went, especially because he did what he could to achieve the things he wanted. Not sure if he did, but I think he didn't understand the language acquisition process in a way that could have been done in a simpler format differently. So think with me, right? We're talking about 9 years. I'm gonna do the math here because I want to know how many days are 9 years. We've got 365 days, 9. We're talking about 3,285 days. If we do that by 24, we're talking about 78,840 hours, almost 80,000 hours. People say that if you spend 10,000 hours doing something, you are an expert. It goes for anything. It goes for language, which is talking about. But it also goes for sports, painting, writing, recording, whatever thing you can think of. You spend 10,000 hours doing it, you're going to be like up 1%. So he did it. He stayed there for 78,000 hours, 3,285 days, or 9 years. Now think with me. We're talking about hours here. Now let's break those hours into minutes. 78,000 hours times 60 for minutes. So it's 4,730,400. A whole lot of minutes. And sometimes we think we need to count things as years, days, or even hours. But if we break down to minutes, it's much easier for us to invest minutes than hours. What I'm trying to get here is, if he had spent 10 minutes studying English or trying to acquire more knowledge of the language, you wouldn't need to be like an expert in English. Wouldn't need to spend 1 hour a day. But if you did 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you would be great at speaking. Like we said, that was 78. It was like 3,285. 3,285 days. If you did 10 minutes a day, we're talking about 32,800. You do that by 60 hours. That would be like almost 600 hours. He wouldn't be an expert, but he would be really good at speaking English. And at some point, after probably the first couple of years, would be able to communicate to people, and he would increase the amount of time it would be. But the problem is sometimes we think we need to start practicing 1 hour a day. We need to start with a map of how to do something. We need to start with the plan of how we're going to do it, and that's how it works. But actually, if we just do a little bit every day, just a little, in a matter of years, we're going to be far ahead of where we are right now. We're going to be great. I mean it. Like, we're going to do amazing. And I'm guilt myself of not doing what I'm telling you right now with the guitar in the last couple. It's the struggle I've been having. And sometimes it's difficult. I know it's difficult. It's not easy. You have a routine, you have things to do, you have a schedule. But if you want to learn it, if you want to do something, do a little. If he had spent 10, 15 minutes a day, he would spend, telling you. And getting back to the situation I was telling you about, I started talking about 2 students. One that said, you speak English really well, you lived in another country, but that doesn't guarantee. And the student that lives in the United States, trying to learn English. So I was telling him that I really admire his effort. I know it's not easy. Like, work every day, get tired, you get home, you don't want to study. But if you do it, you're investing time and money into your future. And what this guy does is he speaks every single opportunity. Impressive. He talks to people at the gas station. When he was at the construction site where he works, when somebody that speaks English show up, the other guys tell him, hey, they speak, you communicate to us. He's just learning, but he's trying. He's not like, oh, sorry. He goes like, how can I help you? And he tries to communicate. So this guy, in a few years, probably going to own a company, and probably create his own company. And he's going to have the other guys work for him. And it a lot of money. because of the investment of time, energy, courage. He's not doing anything miraculous, anything impressive. But it is impressive because most people, but it's not shows up, he tries to. So if you don't know where to start, I'm going to give you 3 tips on how you can, more specifically, 2 tips, 1 golden tip. When you learn something, there are two reasons for you to learn it. Interest, like it. Need, you have the need to learn something. Interest or need. Sometimes we can combine those two, very rare, but both interest and need create a third wheel, this process, which is curiosity. So if you don't know where to start, I'm telling you, interest or need, those 2 scenarios will bring you to curiosity. And when you find whatever brings you curiosity, double down on it. Invest your energy or attention into whatever gets you curious. Because if you do that, you learn English easier, learn English better, learn English consistently. Most importantly of all, you will learn it. Not only English, whatever. You will learn it. I hope this episode has helped you to understand that living in a different country not guarantee you're going to speak English. And sometimes you don't need like a lot, but you need consistent effort on the daily basis, the little you have to offer. Don't forget to practice. If you like this episode, share it with a friend, and I will see you guys in the next one.